Hi guys, in today's lesson we're going to look at learning your first scale. The best way to approach your first scale is probably to learn the pentatonic scale, okay? The pentatonic scale is just 5-note scale. Pent stands for 5, so that's why it's called a 5-note scale. The playthrough video that I did at the beginning of this video was in the key of G major pentatonic, and I'm going to teach you that scale shape so that you can practice along with the 15-minute backing track that comes along with this part of the video. So, the G major pentatonic scale, I'm going to demonstrate that to you first of all, and then I'll break it down and teach you the scale shape. So here's the G major pentatonic scale. Okay, so to begin with, we want to keep all of our strokes just downstrokes to begin with. Keep it nice and simple. Because we want to be thinking more about the left hand, learning the shape, and then we can maybe think about alternate picking with the right hand. Okay, so keep it nice and simple to begin with. First of all, we're going to start with our second finger on the 3rd fret of the low E string down here. I'm going to pick that once. Our next scale note is the open A string. Then fret number 2 on the A string. Open D string. Fret 2 of the D. Open G. Fret 2 of the G, open B, and then use your finger 3 now for fret 3 of the B, open on the high E, and then finger 3 on fret 3 of the high E to finish off the scale. When you get to the top of the scale, we want to do a descending pattern, so exactly the same but coming down. So we do 3, 0, onto the B string, 3, 0, second finger, second fret of the G now, 2, 0, 2, 0 on the D, 2, 0 on the A, finger 3, or finger 2, sorry, on the fret 3 of the low E string, and that's your last note. When you play your scale, you want to go from, so ascending, descending just means up and down. You want to do that without repeating the top note, okay? So it should sound like this in full. Keep it nice and slow, not too fast. It should sound like this. So with the low fret there on the low E string, you can either do it with your 3rd or your 2nd finger. To me, actually, it makes more sense to do it with your 3rd finger. Okay, so start with the 3rd, and then 2nd for all the 2nd fret position ones, and then back to when you get to fret 3 at the top E string there, we do that with finger 3 as well. Okay, so that's the G major pentatonic scale. And just to let you know as well, the chords in that backing track, they start off with a G chord, then we go to a B minor, then A, and then we go to an E minor, okay? So if I give you the notes of the scale, all right, to begin with, you'll just want to learn the scale shape and just play along with the backing track and have some fun. But eventually you might get to the point where you can think about what the chords are as well that you're playing over, and then your solo will sound more composed because you're following the notes within the chords. So if I give you the notes of the chord, so the first notes of the scale, the first one is G, because we're in the key of G major. Then we've got an A, which is the open string. Then B, D, E, G, A, B, D, E, and G. Okay? It's a really good practice to learn the scale shape like that slowly and say the notes as you go through the scale, and do that going up and down. Okay? So that's your G major pentatonic scale. It's also very similar to the E minor, well, very, very, very similar to the E minor pentatonic scale, which is this relative minor scale. We will look at that as well now, because we've got a second backing track with this, which is in the key of E minor. The relative scale, so it basically means they share the same notes, okay? The only difference is, in the G major pentatonic, the G, it starts on the G note, okay? That makes sense, we're in the key of G. With the E minor pentatonic, it starts on the note E, okay? So, by learning the G major pentatonic scale, you actually know the E minor pentatonic scale as well, okay? So, if you go back through that, so on the G major pentatonic scale, you started on the 3rd fret of the low E string there. Now, what you want to do is you want to start on the open E string, okay? So this is our E minor pentatonic now, exactly the same scale shape. the end you end with an open E string, okay? Because now we're going E to E because we're in the key of E minor. Alright, so I don't know if you can see that, hopefully you can. They're both exactly the same shape, just the first one starts with a G note and the second one starts with a E note. Okay, so if I play the E minor pentatonic, it's the same notes as well. So E, G, A, B, D, E, G, A, B, D, E, and G, and then back to E. Okay, so just in summary then, we've learned the G major pentatonic scale, which is exactly the same as the E minor pentatonic scale. The only difference is the G major pentatonic starts with the note G, and the E minor pentatonic note starts with the note E. Okay, so here's the scales, just a summary. G major pentatonic first of all. And then E minor pentatonic. Learn the scale shapes and then practice your scale shapes along with the 15-minute backing tracks that come with this. Practice your G major pentatonic over the G major backing track and your E minor pentatonic over the E minor backing track. Okay? They will both work over both backing tracks, and you might want to try that as well as a bit of an advancement on. Try both scales, because what you'll get is you could play a G major over an E minor sounding backing track, or vice versa, and you can change them around. It just will create a different sound. Okay, so experiment with that. So that's your first scales that you've learned. So that's G major pentatonic and E minor pentatonic. I'll see you in our next lesson.